Welcome to Parenting Tips with Dr. Glow on the WDKX podcast network, where the conversation never ends. I'm reminding you that education is in my DNA. I tell people all the time I am a researcher. I sometimes have the title of being a nerd, but I pulled from my archives from 2024 partial information related to voting rights. And today I am wondering if we, as people of color, have voting rights or voting wrongs. Yes, parents, I'm talking to you because we have been impacted by our parents and grandparents. And guess what? Our children are impacted by decisions we make today. So, in pulling from the archives, I did it because of what happened this week at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a decision related to the redistricting of lines in Louisiana. And as a result of lower courts throwing it out or not siding with the state of Louisiana, the case was taken to the highest level, which is the Supreme Court. So let me take a pause. Parents, I hope you're aware that there are challenges in this country, right, related to voting. Things have happened in the state of Texas as well as in the state of California to shift the balance related to whether Republicans or Democrats. And let me give this disclaimer. I am a registered independent. I do not have affiliation directly with either party. But data shows that most Americans have made a decision to not vote. And I'm appealing to you as we are entering into midterm elections that you consider voting not as an option, but as something that is what you should do, a mandate. Actually, when you think about it, mom, dad, grandparents, and others who are in the lives of our children, it's not just about the presidency every 4 years. It's about government officials, whether at the state level, at the county level, or at the city or town level. We're talking about board members who make decisions related to our schools. We're talking about county legislators. We're talking about those council members, whether they're town, village, or city council members. And these are folks that make decisions related to our lives. In Louisiana, it was the local county folks who drew the lines that took it to the state level and so on. We have, yes, our House of Representatives in DC as well as our Senate, which make up our federal level, the Congress. But we are impacted more by what happens locally. So if you have not done your research, okay, I encourage you to do so. I'm going to share a few words from a dear friend of mine, Dr. Matthew Brown, who lives in the red state of Georgia. This is what he shared. For over 40 years, we have watched the slow, deliberate, strategic, and sanctioned erosion of the electoral balance and fair representation, period. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 basically made it illegal for different types of strategies to be used to suppress or eliminate the vote of people of color, especially in southern states. There was a time when you had to guess the number of, let's say, jelly beans in a jar, or you were asked questions in which nobody would be able to answer, and therefore you were disqualified as a voter. So Dr. Brown goes on to say the very principle that those elected should reflect the people who elect them is now under siege. Black and brown communities, once again, find themselves navigating a system that feels less like democracy and more about displacement. And I'll say more about suppression. So I'm giving you a charge to research and take a look at what has happening even locally in Monroe County in New York State when it comes to redistricting. And people of color generally are the ones that are left out. If we think about it, our elders, our ancestors, they endured everything from Reconstruction to Jim Crow to poll tax, which is something I talked about early, no, the jelly bean test, segregation, redlining, being discriminated upon, being shut out from having personal wealth in home purchasing. They fought for us. They fought for our children. They fought for our grandchildren. And they did it with dignity, which is what happened when the Voting Rights Act was enacted. Basically, the Supreme Court has eliminated that Voting Rights Act by saying that there shouldn't be preferential treatment for people who are minorities to be the majority within a legislative district. Basically, they're saying you shouldn't stack black and brown people within a certain jurisdiction or district so that they are the majority as opposed to what would be the Caucasian or white population being the majority, which is the situation that we have right now. Does that mean people will vote a certain party based upon their race? Not necessarily, but there's a commonality among those of the same race. So, what do I say to you? Louisiana has attempted to do what they're doing in making things unequitable within a certain district or jurisdiction. Representation is being diminished for those folks who are black and brown. Decisions have been made, and there is a fight that needs to be fought deliberately, peacefully, and going through the process. I reflect upon Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who basically made a statement about black Americans, black people, being given a bad check. And that check, once presented to the bank, is stamped insufficient funds. So some of us may think the bank is closed. There is nothing that we can draw upon. But I encourage you to not be discouraged. I am an optimistic person. I'm involved in a few things within the community. Some of those things I'll talk about in other podcasts. But mom, dad, granddad, grandmom, godmother, godfather, aunts, uncles, please understand that we have to be resilient. We have to stand our ground. We must be able to ensure that what happened on May 29th, 2026, at the Supreme Court does not become the norm, does not become something that is regular. This podcast is about informing parents so that you can make life better, not just for yourselves, but for your children. So, what must do? What must you do? Continue to educate yourself. Do not put your head in the sand. Understand that nationally, statewide, countywide, city or townwide, you do need to voice your vote and your opinions. We have three branches of the government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. And those judges at the Supreme Court are on the judicial level, and they're appointed by the President of the United States. And their service is lifelong. Some have died as a Supreme Court justice. So think about it. They're aging. There's going to be a need to replace some, and the president is the person that makes the nomination, and then it's confirmed by the Congress. Who do you want to represent you in the future? And I say this because I want you to look at the platform and what candidates are saying. Those who are going to be elected at whatever level, whatever branch of government, we cannot afford to ignore what's happening within this country and the impact it's making on all of our lives. We just can't. You have been listening to Parenting Tips with Dr. Glow on the WDKX Podcast Network, where the conversation never ever ends. Let's keep talking. Question: have you made a plan for the election in November? Are you a registered voter? And if you are, how about grabbing 5 other people who are unregistered and encourage them to become registered?